Dr. Rob, what are the indications for custom milled abutments?
I believe there are three main reasons where you would want to be inclined to use a custom milled abutment. The first one is if the implant's not placed in the right location. So if the implant's not placed in the right location and you have like a cantilever or a Snoopy, you increase the risk to the prosthodontic solution, okay? Because those create bending forces, and bending forces are incompatible with implant longevity, okay? They will break your cement, they will break your abutment screw or loosen your abutment screw or break your abutments. So in cases like that, that would be an indication for when you could use a custom abutment, maximizing the size of the custom blank. The blank is the piece of metal that they mill the custom abutment out of. So you want to maximize the size of the blank, go all the way to the edge, and make your custom abutment mesially and distally as wide as possible because it's made out of metal. And metal is ductile. And ductile means it's forgiving. It means it can bend and flex a little bit like a metal spring. What's going on top of that is either zirconia or Emax. Those materials are brittle. So when you put that brittle metal on top of that ductile material, there's a good chance it could last a long time. So that's the first place to think about it. The second place to think about it is in a place where screw retained is difficult to do. And there are basically 6 teeth where that happens. The 2 laterals and the 4 centrals. So these teeth are so tiny that if you were to try to have an access screw hole on the lingual side of the tooth there's not enough tooth structure in the crown to have a hole there often. Now it can happen in bigger people, it can happen, but it's very rare. So in these cases where you're using a small implant, typically the 3.0 implant in those 6 locations, you're using a custom abutment and cement retained. So when I go cement retained, I go custom abutment. That allows me to get my margin on the margin between my abutment and my crown 1 millimeter inside the sulcus. So if there's any inadvertent expression of cement, I can easily see it and remove it. The third time you would use a custom abutment is high force factors. So let's say you can do a screw retained solution in the molar first molar position on an NFL lineman, okay, who has already shown attrition and wear on his teeth indicative of bruxism, okay? In a case like that, a prudent approach would be to say, I think I'm going to put a little bit more metal in this case than I typically do in order to have that ductility to support these occlusal loads. Even though I could do a screw retained, I'm going to go that route, okay, just to reduce my risk so I have really good outcome for the patient. So those are the 3 times that I use custom abutments. Now, I typically don't do custom abutments. The vast preponderance of all of my cases, the vast preponderance of all of my onesie twosies are a hybrid tie base, which is a titanium base, and a zirconia crown. Now, I've heard people say, I don't do that solution because of delamination. The cement between the zirconia crown and the abutment breaks. So I don't like that solution, so I do custom. Now, custom costs a lot, stock doesn't. So if you want to increase your cost, there has to be a reason to do that. And the reason is, in some people's cases, that I have a lot of failures doing it this way. Fair enough. But the problem is this. If you take a zirconia solution and you put it on a hybrid tie base, which sits on top of an implant that's not in the right location, it will fail. It will fail. I don't have failures because I put my implants in the right location so that the loads that are applied to the prosthodontic solution, the crown, the loads go right down the center of my implant. And if the loads go right down the center of your implant, you'll never have a decementation of your crown to your abutment. It just won't happen because that's where the loads are minimized by the solution. The solution is strongest when the forces are going straight down the center of it. So when people tell me I've had terrible success with that, really what they're saying is, I probably used a hammer when I should have used a screwdriver. In other words, the implant wasn't in the right location. They tried this solution, so they got a Snoopy. They got a Snoopy on the crown, so a big cantilever to the mesial or the distal. And then when the patient bit down on it, it put it in rotation and puts the cement in shear, which we know cement is weakest in shear, and bam, it falls off. You have that happen 2 or 3 times, and you become a very big proponent for not using this solution. But if you never have it happen, then you become a very strong proponent. So, zirconia crown on top of a hybrid tie base, stock hybrid tie base, is a very inexpensive, amazing, long-lasting solution that is probably 98% of all the solutions I do in the mouth.
Wow. So basically get the implant in the right location.
Yep.
And you get the forces going right down the axis of the implant. And you don't have to worry about a delamination or a failure.
That's correct. Implant location, location, location.
All seems to come back to that.
It sure does. It comes back there a lot.
Yeah, suspiciously much.
It's very interesting.
It's almost like the method's based around that.
It's like a cornerstone to Implants Made Simple.
Almost.
This has been another episode of Implants Made Simple. I'm Dr. Robert Stanley, Smile Engineer, out.